Hello, and welcome back to the PMP Videocast. I'm your host, Brian, and today we are continuing our look at the iconic futurism of designer Syd Mead. Last time, we covered his design work. Check out that video for an introduction to Mead's visions of the future. In this video, we are going to be exploring his contributions to anime through two series he provided designs for, Yamato 2520 and Turn A Gundam. We will also be diving into the history and futures around these series, as well as Mead's impact on the medium as a whole. Before we get into it, obligatory Patreon plug. None of these videos or videos on our other channel happen without the generous support of our patrons. They keep stuff coming out, and in exchange get access to dozens of exclusive videos and series like Feature Film, looking at the future of movies. We're going to be covering Syd Mead's Futures in Film later this month. $5 a month gets you access to that and so much more, and helps keep us going. Patreon.com/PixelPortraits. With all that out of the way, let's head back to the future. Now, as we mentioned last time, in the early 1980s, Syd Mead began working with several Japanese companies, Bandai, Minolta, Honda, Sony. The 1980s were also when anime really broke into the American market. Obviously, shows had come before, successful shows, but now American audiences were being exposed to a ton of animation made in Japan, whether they knew it or not. Series were licensed and localized, or their production was outsourced to Japanese studios. People got a taste of the aesthetic and style. In 1982, Syd Mead produced the work he is probably best known for, Blade Runner. Again, we will talk about it on Future Film, but Blade Runner had an enormous impact on anime. So many anime employ the cyberpunk aesthetic Mead helped develop. The influence of his designs can be found in two of the most important anime of all time, Akira and Ghost in the Shell. Both of these titles were instrumental in introducing Western audiences to anime, and by the mid-1990s, anime fandom was a rising subculture here in the West. Different video distribution labels imported titles. Tapes cost $50 and had 2 episodes on them. They had some terrible dubs, tons of violence, much of it was targeted at adults. Conventions were formed, fandom was born, and most importantly, it wasn't passed off as American. The fact that it was produced in Japan was something celebrated rather than disguised. Mead's direct involvement with anime came through new entries of 2 established IPs, the first being a follow-up to space battleship Yamato 2520. This was produced in 1994 by Yoshinobu Nishizaki, who co-created the original series back in the 70s. Nishizaki created another series set in the future, Space Carrier Blue Noah, which featured a futuristic space sub. He was also a producer on Urotsukidoji, which we covered over on Century of Schlock on Patreon. If you know, you know. It's a pretty wild movie, and Nishizaki was a pretty wild guy. He liked luxury, he liked to party, he had a crazy life full of all sorts of legal issues. Multiple times in the late 90s, he was arrested on possession of drugs and firearms, gun smuggling. He ended up going to prison. There were legal issues with Yamato 2520 as well. Nishizaki was sued by another of Yamato's creators, Leishi Matsumoto, who is somebody we could do a whole video on. Matsumoto was responsible for some of the most popular features of 70s manga and anime, Captain Harlock, Galaxy Express 39, and Space Battleship Yamato, which he argued was his copyright, his intellectual property. This would get resolved, but not until the early 2000s, and due to these legal issues, the production of Yamato 2520 stalled, with just 3 episodes finished, even though 10 were planned. These 3 would get a home release, so we can see some of Mead's designs, which is what I want to review. I don't want to talk about the series itself, but instead the future, and the aesthetics Mead brought to it. Now, he is credited with mechanical design, and there are several conceptual drawings I can verify with his signature, but it is hard to know exactly what he did design on the series, so we are just going to take it all as a whole. A little bit of history on Yamato. The original series took place in the 22nd century. 2199, a race of aliens attack Earth. Another race of aliens help humanity create an interstellar spaceship, the space battleship Yamato, and from there, it's very similar to Star Trek. A crew blasts off into adventure. Yamato 2520 takes place in 2520. From what I've been able to gather, besides taking place far in the future, this series was going to follow a new crew who built a new ship based on blueprints found. A lot of standard sci-fi stuff, video screens, hologram calling, aesthetically complicated computer systems. The world feels very much like Blade Runner. The structural designs are very similar to what we saw in his commercial work, very clean. The city here should look familiar to fans of Mass Effect. Given his history of automobile design, it's no surprise there are some great vehicles, various spaceships, flying craft, these cool unicycles, transports, the ship itself, the new Yamato. This and the original design were based off of the World War II Japanese warship of the same name, only in space. You can definitely see Mead's touch here, especially comparing it to the original. Mead was a professional designer and designed this like he would for any other client. In this, I feel like it loses a lot of the personality of the original. It's much colder, for lack of a better word, maybe too clean, too sterile, I don't know. I couldn't find dubs or even subs for Yamato 2520, but I will post links in the description if you want to check it out. There are 3 episodes available here on YouTube. The other anime Mead worked on was 1999's Turn A Gundam. The world and future of Gundam is huge, something else we could do a whole video or multiple videos on. The briefest synopsis: Gundam takes place in an alternate future with an alternate history. This is one of those cases of using aesthetics and ideas we associate with the future to create a unique universe with its own history and rules. The main series timeline is set in what is known as the Universal Century, or UC, so rather than BC or AD, years are designated with UC, UC 0079, UC 0083. There are others: After Colony, AC, Cosmic Era, CE, not super important to what we're going to be talking about. In Gundam's future, humans have started colonies in space. Most of the plots revolve around different factions and governments at war, using giant mechs known as mobile suits. There are advanced or unique mobile suits known as Gundams, and the series generally follows the pilots of specific Gundams. There is nearly 50 years of history, and the canon and continuity changes. I am far from an expert, but that is basically an overview of Gundam's future. Gundam originally aimed to be a more grounded mecha series. The mobile suits, while fantastic, were still rooted in science. The intent was to present this world and these machines as realistic, and Mead applied this principle, or these principles, to his design. He approached this the same way he would, say, a car for Ford, factoring in design ideas as if the Gundams were to be real. Mead designed several of the mobile suits, including the titular Turn A. The design they went with is very distinct, namely the mustache it has. The original design was initially rejected, but was later chosen to be used for the Sumo mobile suit. Stylistically, the Sumo probably is the most grounded and similar to Mead's other work. Same with the Flat, which I think is the coolest looking, personally. Mead's favorite design was apparently the Turn X. It is a very sleek design with some cool features. Its head comes off, allowing the pilot to eject. It looks like one of Mead's later vehicle designs. He also designed the GM1F Bandit, probably the weakest of the bunch from a design perspective. It's the least quote-unquote real looking, but still pretty cool. Turn A has the distinction of being the first Gundam to be entirely designed by a gaijin, or foreigner, someone not Japanese. The reaction to Mead's work was pretty divisive amongst fans and even those working on the show. Admittedly, the mustache is kind of weird, but it is still very interesting to see Sid Mead's style adapted into anime. While his influence over the medium, through the things he inspired, will probably be more fondly remembered, his direct contributions are fascinating additions to his iconic futurism and legendary career. And that's just about it for today. Let me know what you think. This wasn't meant to be exhaustive. Again, I'm no expert, so feel free to comment or correct down below. If you enjoyed this video, give us a thumbs up, please subscribe, please share, and if you have the means, please consider supporting us on Patreon. Check out our video on Sid Mead if you haven't. Check out our other channel where we have an entire series on cartoons and retrofuturism, pics and portraits, future tunes. I've been thinking of remaking and porting some of the older videos over to this channel. Let me know if there is any interest in that. Thank you so much for your interest, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the future. Thanks everybody.